No, I think the fall is more under Mark's control, really.
Do you rule with an iron thumb?
No, I think he's. I just think in all groups it's better to have one spokesman and one. I've seen too many groups go down in the name of democracy, And I think I've got the right to do it because I care about the fall. I don't care about. If you get group members who want something, it's usually out of selfish reasons.
Yeah, we are the fall and we are the best. Yeah, we are the fall and we are the best. Yeah, we are the fall and we are the best.
So it's humid as fuck in here, and it's, I think, the ideal environment to listen to Ben Sinister. This AC
I was gonna say,
stopped working.
You don't have your mini split on?
It stopped working. I gotta get it fixed. I was running it too hard apparently last summer recording.
I was gonna say it's like brand new, is it not?
Yeah, it's a couple of years old. I think it just gets overworked when it gets hot as hell.
Yeah.
It can't really keep up. It's really just pumping barely, room temperature air back circulated. Perfect for a Ben Sinister experience. Well, do you want to apologize to the audience? Do you want to apologize to the
formally
to
Una
for your mistake? I was also like, oh, maybe these people are wrong though. Maybe Steve did post the right image of Una Baines up there, and then I looked at who was commenting, and I said, oh no,
probably Martin knows.
I'm pretty
Martin
sure Martin Brahma. He's probably a pretty accurate assessment of if that is Una Baines or not. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to know. I should just, but gotcha. I'm just testing you to see how engaged our audience really is.
Yeah. That's actually exactly what it is. It's just a little test to see if you're really paying attention to any of these. Oh, we are the fall posts. That's good.
Glad you.
And we will be testing you later. We will be testing you moving forward as well. You see a picture of David Bowie in there, you're just like, oh, what? This does not, something here doesn't fit. That's just a problem of we didn't train the intern well. That posted it. The intern is not up to that. The intern is only up through training up through 1979. So, they can't recognize who is actually a band member after that point or before that point. Okay, so welcome back to We Are the Fall. And today we are jumping into 1986. Just testing you. And we are going to be listening to the last of the John Leckie trilogy produced albums. And what type of album is this, Steve?
It is it's kind of a mix. I mean, it's got some rock, it's got some pop sounds in it. You get some shoulder pads. It's got some moving in your seat. You got some moving in your seat a little bit.
This one I was looking forward to us doing because This one I feel like is kind of obviously a lot of people that are fall heads really like this one, and I count myself as one of those people. And I rank it up there pretty high, but I also feel like it gets a little bit of an underrated rap because when it came out, I was reading some of the reviews, and when it came out, some people were basically saying this is kind of the beginning of the end for the band because I think even Bricks in her book says that they were pretty much feeling like they were on like an upward trajectory with uh, perverted by language, of course, but Wonderful and Frightening World of the Fall, and then This Nation Saving Grace. And they felt like they were really hitting a groove, and the band felt good, and they were making basically catchy songs. But internally, Bricks knew that, and I think a lot of the band members knew that Mark was going to pull some self-sabotage behavior and spin the ship all the way around and go the opposite way. But as much as they say that there was a lot of turmoil in the band when they were making this album, and the last one with John Leckie as the producer, I actually like this one maybe the best, out of all the three that John Leckie made. I think this one, for me, has some of the most interesting uh, themes and conceptual themes. Maybe not the most interesting lyrics and songs for compared to some of the early 80s albums especially, but this one is I really like this one. I like the vibe of it. I really wish it really hit on more of the tone consistently that I think they were going for, but yeah.
I enjoyed the whole album. Yeah, I agree. The lyrics aren't overly complicated or super interesting. Um, but the sound of it is great. It's very listenable. Right. I kind of from front to back, there's not any that you're like, ooh, let's skip over that one and get to the next one.
Yeah. And this one is the album where there's no Carl Burns on this album. Carl gets fired. Paul Hanley steps in for a minute, but really they move on at this period to Simon Funky Cy on the drums. And I don't know, like even Bricks Bricks says that she felt like they didn't have enough time to produce this record the way they wanted to. And also, Mark was being very contrarian and coming into the studio and basically being argumentative with John Leckie and everything that he suggested just to argue with him, which, we're not surprised about. But the way that the album turned out, I'm not really upset about what they came up with and what they put down on the record. I think it sounds cool. I think that this is interesting because I think that there's a lot of this is like an album that for me is the fall going goth, like a Bauhaus album, which is a band on their same label on Beggar's Banquet. And I feel like this was a kind of step in the direction as much as they might be interested in going into a gothic or a dark, brooding album. But it jumps around so much sonically that it comes back to that tone. But I really wish that they would have stayed on that track. And as the fall usually does, they can't stay on a concept for too long. So if as much as I want a concept album that is based around some gothic, dark, brooding Marky Smith, with where he does wear eyeliner eventually, eventually in his career, but I want him to be deep in there. I want him to, I like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think as dark as he gets in a lot of his other lyrics, it's not necessarily there in most of them, and then all of a sudden you get a kind of almost silly songs that don't necessarily fit with the vibe.
Yeah. Some of them are kind of it's hard for them to go extra dark. I know that Steve Hanley can go there with the bass tones. I know that the any of the rhythm section, honestly, the drumming can go there I know that Craig Scanlon can play some dissonant guitar. I know that they have the ability, and I know that Mark can sing about, he likes to sing about really dark, freaky stuff, but it gets thrown off when you get Brix's guitar riffs that are not that they're just hyper simplistic, but that they are very bright, usually in tone. And even going into the first track, ROD, we you get a dark vibe, but then it's offset by what Brix even says is like a surf rock
Yeah,
guitar.
certainly that surf rock always kind of shines through the
Yeah,
a little bit of
which is cool. I actually
Beach
think it really
Boys
worked. Yeah,
vibes, but
Beach Boy.
like
Yeah, she says she loves the Boys riffage and she studied it, so it makes sense that she's going to keep going to that. And she wants to make a poppy, catchy thing. And I really think that the band definitely has the ability and has shown the ability in the past to make an album that is complete artistic endeavor and not even considering any sort of outside influence such as an audience. And it's just like the combativeness between those two. But like I
yeah,
said, the first song does it.
any time they get anything that resembles pop, it's purely by accident or maybe by design, but they're not.
Yeah.
That wasn't the end game. Like it wasn't like, oh, we're
Yeah.
gonna
Or it's a
this
cover
one's
song.
or it's a cover song, or they're not.
Yeah.
There's no point ever in saying, oh, this is gonna get on the charts. We better do something everyone's gonna like.
Yeah. And I really think that they could have really with the choices in the songs that they chose in the track list and then the exclusion of some of the singles that they left off and made into singles, some of those tracks that are darker in tone that they used for singles or as bonus tracks on the cassette and the US version, I think that if you swapped out a couple of the more, let's just say a little bit more surface level songs on Ben Sinister for the singles that are darker in tone, I think this album would be, I don't know, one of my favorites. It's still up there as far as, like I said, all of the 80s, mid 80s records, especially the John Leckie ones, is up at the top. But if you made some thoughtful choices and if you were a different version of the fall and you wanted to go that direction, the Bauhaus direction, I think they could have really nailed it with just swapping out some of the singles for some of the songs that are a little more bouncing, up-tempo songs.
So then Sinister released September 1986 on Beggar's Banquet. You got Marky Smith, Brick Smith, Craig Scanlon, Steve Hanley, Simon Rogers, Simon Wollstonecroft, and Paul Hanley. Produced by John Leckie, engineered by Joe Gillingham. It was recorded on Abbey Road in London at Yellow 2.
Oh yeah, I always forget it was recorded at Abbey Road. And this was the one album where John Leckie decided I'm going to record this band live, direct to tape. We've kind of talked about it before in a previous episode about how John Leckie kind of figured out what Mark was hearing in the studio and why he would get kind of upset. But it sounded like even though he figured out what Mark was hearing or the way to work with Mark, which was to kind of get that immediate recording and then move forward with it, it sounds like there was a little bit of the combativeness that Mark was
Yeah.
going to bring no matter what.
I was gonna say it seems like Mark had certainly reached his tolerance for people telling him what to do or giving him ideas on what the sound was going to be.
Yeah, and working together for 3 albums, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's 3 years of it. And even Brix says at some point that she could kind of tell Mark was becoming a little bit maybe upset or unhappy in the marriage. So, everything is kind of going, and of course the substance abuse is not going to help that, and that was going to be heavily impacting the recording of the album as well. After this point, they do go back to working with Grant Showbiz, which is cool, and which I'm also excited to get back into the Grand Showbiz production side, as a switch up. Yeah, let's get into the last John Leckie produced fall album and this version of the band, and let's hit it off right away with Realm of Darkness. Is it Realm of Darkness?
Realm of Dusk.
Oh yeah, Realm of Dusk.
Did you hear that noise at the back end? I hadn't heard it before. Like
The tapes.
Oh,
Well, yeah, Mark plays the tapes on this album as well. But yeah, it's a lot of sounds, right? It's a lot of sound collage, which we haven't heard on a fall album in a little while, a little bit, which is cool. And but also speaking of tapes, Mark and John Leckie got into one of their many arguments, and it sounded like they were mostly one-sided. Mark just arguing, right? And John Leckie seems like a very kind of level-headed, kind of a chill producer. Obviously, if he's worked with so many bands, but Mark was walking around with these cassette tapes, dubs of the recording session, and he came in and he said, this is what and you've held up the tapes and he's like, this is what I want the album to sound like. This is what we're going to make the masters off the cassette tape. And John Leckie's like, no, we're not doing that. We're definitely not doing that. He's like, we're in Abbey Road, we're making this recording that sounds really good. We're not going to put it on a cassette tape and then just to take it off a cassette tape to make it sound like that. So maybe that was one of the sticking points where I'm sure it sounded cool, especially that song, if that was on a cassette tape that was kind of, just bounced from the studio, it probably sounds pretty good still. That song works for me. I really like that song. It's a great leadoff track.
yeah. I mean, it starts dark and scary, and then, like we said, yeah, you get the total change of pace. I mean, is the fast drumming during the dark scene, which is almost it's setting up this like anticipation, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen? And then all of a sudden, it's kind of you're like, oh, okay, it didn't go where I thought it was about to, but
the chorus really pops, right?
Yeah,
the chorus just pops out of nowhere, and I love the way it starts. I love it; always catches me as it draws you in, but this is Simon playing the funky side, playing the drums, and he plays that drum roll you're talking about. It's kind of a long drum roll build-up part, which is intensifying the tension. But if this was Carl Burns still in the frame and still in the band, he would be playing that on the snare drum because that's his sound. I mean, that's his move. He's doing a long build, and Simon, funky side, he plays it on the floor tom, which is in my opinion, way more fitting because it's a darker sound and it's also a bigger sound. It's not as
Yeah, I
cutting
would say
through.
way more full.
Hmm. And I really like that. It's really cool. So we're already seeing the change in personnel have an impact on the sound, even if it is just, that type of thing. It already sounds totally different. And speaking of sound and speaking of bricks, the guitar strumming, so not the riff, but if you listen to the guitar strumming, it is a cool lo-fi distorted strumming sound that reminds me a lot of the first time that we hear her on record, which is her playing her guitar by herself in the Hotel Blodell
Oh
song.
yeah.
And it doesn't have the phaser effect on there, but it's very much, and it could be Craig Scanlon playing it for all I know. I'm just assuming because it sounds just like it has her feel, and it sounds cool and it's really good. And I wish that the more of the songs had that strumming instead of just bouncy 3 4 note riffs. I think the fall could really do with some more guitar strums. And also Craig, I think maybe in some ways Craig gets pushed to the side of the sonic spectrum because Brix is playing just, that riff, those riffs over and over again, that he really has to get creative and kind of just gets put into a little bit of a corner where usually he's at the forefront of being able to play like a weird riff that is not catchy, like a weird riff that is just totally just for sound and a paintbrush splattering of sound, which is much more fitting to the fall earlier
Yeah, he's
version.
exactly. Yeah, he's not in the front of the stage next to Mark anymore, right? Which you'd think would maybe allow him to paint more in the background and apply more, but
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like his amp just gets turned down a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It does, which is unfortunate because we obviously have come to really appreciate all of his sounds. So that's the realm of Dusk. You like that? You like that? Was that
The
a Twilight Zone reference?
the Realm of Dust, I think so.
I
Yeah,
don't.
or ROD, Rod Sterling, ROD.
Rod Sterling. Yeah. The lyrics on this one are cool. I mean, we were talking about it, the lyrics on this album not being as strong as definitely not perverted by language, but there's cool lyrics in this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
the approach is approaching. I mean, he paints a
Yes.
scary picture.
Yes.
600 pounds, rod and tainted,
Rotten and tainted. Yeah, that is.
lip,
Oh,
lips, tongue, abhorrent, flickering lexicon.
I love flickering lexicon. Oh, I love flickering lexicon. Mm, that's a real tasty little couple words.
Yeah, I think Mark said it's about people and their mediocrity in the world.
But yeah, it's also interesting because Mark at different points says different things about this album. As interviewers ask them about what do you think about Ben Sinister, sometimes he says it's a fucking basically an album he wants to forget about, and then sometimes he's like it's a brilliant album. It's like
Yeah.
something, so even he doesn't know and his feelings change about it, which I think that's just what the album is. I think if you think about your favorite songs on this album like I do, I say it's always something I want to listen to because it makes me consider. I have a lot of albums like this in my life where I put them on and they're not the perfect albums, but they're almost more interesting because they're not perfect and they have all of these little idiosyncratic things that you want to change, but they're just there. And so you have to kind of appreciate it in a different way than a perfect album that's kind of an immediate thing where you're just like, wow, I just gonna bathe in this.
Yeah, and you almost try to appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
Versus something that like you said, a perfect album or something that you just love through and through. Once you put it on too many times, you're not even really listening anymore. It's just kind of around you, right? Where
Mm,
these sorts of albums, you're like, okay, what is this? Is it?
yeah.
I like this part for sure, but not so sure about the next bit. But
Yep. Why did they do that? Why did they do that? Why did they do that? Why did they put another version of the same thing on this album when I know there's 2, 3 singles that are interesting and way more interesting than hearing the same thing again. But it's all those questions where you're like, what is going on? And and then it's offset by something that's like that's really great, which there's a couple of really good instances on this album where you're like, that's such a great kind of sound for the band and the band pulling it off, that they should just keep going that way. And they're like, nope, 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 that would be too easy. We're not going to keep going that direction. We know you would like that.
Yeah,
We know
right.
we know you would buy 2 copies of this album if we did that. But nope, I don't
We
think so.
would, yeah, we know you tell your friends, and we are not interested in.
And that's why we need to go darker. So, should we go meet up with get a prescription written up for us to move forward in this
I need some
album
energy.
journey?
I need some energy.
Let's get some energy from Dr. Faustus.
Dr. Faustus, horseshoes blackened, swallows, hay cart, cart horse of the peasants blocking his path. Dr. Faustus, power showing, spits out, hay cart, cart horse.
What's your favorite fruit?
I think we talked about this on the Peel session when they premiered this song, where Rick said she's kind of embarrassed, that she's cringe. She says it's cringe-worthy that she had to say those words, that Mark made her say those words.
I think Mark wanted her to just yell banana, and I guess she just said maybe we'll say some other fruits too.
See, I totally believe that. I totally believe that. But and also in the Peel session, I think it works. It kind of works. I actually had no problem with it during the Peel sessions when they were playing the song, because it's in the background. But this one, it is right there.
Yeah.
It's right there, and actually it is kind of unfortunate choice, but it doesn't ruin the song. And I'm actually glad that I get to hear Bricks singing. I actually really like that. I like to hear her sing. I'm glad that Gavin Friday is not the duet secondary vocalist anymore. I'm glad that Bricks is belting it out, because it sounds cool. It sounds much better. And I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to hear Brooks in a darker vein too, right? Like at no point did this. I mean, obviously it's kind of silly yelling for names.
Well, besides
it is
the other parts.
It is dark and brooding song.
When she's saying you had your chance, you had your chances, that's real ominous tone, and I really like the way that she delivers that.
I think Dr. Faustus is off of a German folklore story.
Yeah, so let's talk about Dr. Faustus, especially after the first track, which is about approaching mediocrity, and then going to a character like Dr. Faustus, which Mark seems very much occupied with this character in general. And Dr. Faustus is what? Like a guy that's
like a magician, or like a wizard of some sort, it seems.
Oh, like. I thought he was like well, maybe he's that too. I thought he was like a guy that's a scholar that's like maxed out on knowledge. Like he's kind of completely maxed out in every area. And so he needs to move beyond the constraints of human knowledge. He needs to go further so actually that does make sense. A magician.
A magician. Yeah, I mean the stories here.
That's cool.
He basically, a farmer was blocking the way, and Dr. Faustus said, if you don't get out of my way, I'll swallow the stack of hay, cart, horses, and all. And then he does it, and then he spits them back out, and he goes to a party where there's no fruit because it's winter, and he basically magicians up of trays of exotic fruits.
Oh, so that's what the when
Yeah,
the
it's kind
fruits
of
are coming in.
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
So I think that was the off the book that they were reading that when him and Brooks wrote it.
it's kind of like a weird Jesus kind of
A little bit,
type of
right?
deal too. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
German, of
But
course.
German, of course. Yeah, yeah. But it's German, of course, when it's considering Mark, Mark is definitely pulling from that. Okay, so that's cool because I do like that Mark is setting that scene of the story with a lot of these lyrics in the traversing of the landscape with he says horseshoes splacking. Yeah, horseshoes splacking is a great is a great call for, I don't know, it makes you
Yeah.
feel like you're getting actually sloshed with the mud
I was
from
gonna
the
say
hooves.
I can't think of the term, but yeah, those two
It
words.
sounds just like
It
it, yeah.
sounds like what it is, right?
Yeah, yeah,
What
it
that
does.
term is.
The peasants blocking his path. Um, yeah, it's cool. I like it. And it does get thrown a little bit with some of the delivery of some of the choices in the sound. But did the Steve Hanley's bass riff is so good. It's going off. It's going everywhere. I really like that. And it sounds like they almost overdub a guitar on top of it so that it's like it's got the top end with Steve Hanley. And Steve
Is
Hanley's really just laying it down. They're going off of
is
that.
it all tape? What is that xylophony?
Oh yes, that's I want to. Yes, let's talk about that. It sounds like a toy piano, right?
Okay,
It's
yeah,
no, no, but
or like
you're like a xylophone. Yeah, you're right. Like a
yeah,
toy
like a
piano
really
has that
fast,
dink,
exactly.
dink.
The toy piano with the little
Yeah.
xylophone on top, like playing it
Mm-hmm.
really quickly. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm. And then they're just doing it at the end with that. And isn't it fun to think about them deciding on that sound when they recorded it in, I think, a couple other studios too. But isn't it kind of fun to think of them in Abbey Road Studios where at the call of picking up the phone in the building, you could have an orchestra there like the next in a couple hours. And in the same setting, they decide that fucked up sounding thing sound is actually perfect. Let's put that on there. And John Leckie doesn't
and a
seem like a
lot.
guy to say no for
I
that,
was
or he
gonna
might
say,
be
and a
his
lot of it
idea.
too.
Yeah, a
Not
lot
even a
of it.
little bit. It's
A
in
lot
there,
of it.
right? Like
Hmm.
all you can
Even
really remember
yeah.
about the song is the banana, but it's there quite a bit.
Yeah, it's got a great and we both really like when the fall brings in the weird instrument as a texture, and they do it really well with this track. Also, this Dr. Faustus is a character that Mark returns to because just in the year following this release, Mark does his play, right? He writes his play about Pope John Paul the First, I think. So he does this play, and Dr. Faustus is a character, or yeah, I believe a character, and Briggs plays Dr. Faustus' wife in the play. But as we've come to realize that play, it sounds so fun. I don't know. It sounds like there's not any footage of it, but it sounds so cool. I'm not a big, theatrical person, but if that was done somewhere, I would love to see that. I would love to see that be put on. Because it sounded like everyone involved also had no idea what was going on, which is even better. And they had live music, which come on, you got to do it. If you're having a theatrical production and you're having, I think they had some of it piped in through the speakers, but they had a live renditions of a couple fall songs. That's what you got to have. That make it a show, make it an actual show. I like where we're going.
First two. I'm happy.
Hmm.
I'm engaged.
Now that you're engaged, would you like to lighten the mood though? I certainly wouldn't, but
I was
I
gonna
think
say I like it dark, but
I think we have to.
we're about to one and two
Okay,
twice.
let's basically get into some whistling. Let's get into shoulder pads. 1 pound.
I was fast, yes, sugar
Shoulder pads over, right?
Yeah, shoulder pads.
Okay,
Silver.
okay. I had to open up I had to get this. I'm sweating. The shoulder pads were making me fucking sweat.
And looking more at the lyrics now, they're not bad lyrics.
I know, they're not
really.
bad at all. No.
And the song sounds good. It just doesn't tie in necessarily to the first two.
That kind of, the do 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 do. It's just so, oh man. It sounds like a commercial. Like, I don't know. I don't like
Yeah.
I just don't like that. After I got led to someplace, it's kind of
Exactly.
like a slap
It rips you
right
right out of
across
it.
my
Yeah,
fucking
absolutely.
face. And
I mean, it's
I do
humorous.
appreciate it. I do appreciate
I
it.
mean, yeah, it's humorous, oh, Mark's wearing shoulder pads. But yeah,
It's a topical.
it's a topical. It's there, so you got to enjoy it.
The thing that always makes me want to listen to the song though is the chorus, and like you said, the lyrics are actually really good. I actually do like the lyrics a lot, even though they don't fit with the first two songs, tone wise. The lyrics are really good, but the chorus instrumentation is so interesting. The way it dun 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 dun, dun. I always am trying to listen so hard and figure out what did they use right there. I know you said like church organ. You guys has
open bass noise sounds like like what's the bluegrass like bucket with a string instrument, like the wash basin, like boom boom boom, the tub string. Yeah, exactly. Boom boom boom. Like it's got a little bit of metallic sound to it, but it's just so open. It doesn't.
Mark liked rockabilly, but I don't know if he liked hillbilly. But it has an acoustic, and that's what I was about to say. It has an acoustic sound where it could have even been an acoustic guitar, just completely detuned to the lowest, octave or dun dun dun, or acoustic bass guitar. I think we're kind of in the realm of that. Yeah.
Even a bass, like an open bass that wasn't plugged in, right? Like,
Mhm.
just the string itself.
No. Yeah, there is a vibration to it, definitely. There's a thuddy vibration, but it's cool. I actually the chorus really is the reason why I keep listening to this one. I would not put it at track 3, and I probably would not put it. The lyrics are good.
This would be a great either
single
by itself or B-side of a single. Like, it's funny, it's engaging. You're gonna fool some people into buying your next album because you think it's gonna sound like this, and then you get a awesome dark and brooding experience instead. But
the title is cool. I like the shoulder pads title. It makes me want to listen to it.
I think Brick said Mark did borrow a shirt from her that she took from her mom that had shoulder pads in it. So I mean, I would definitely like to see a photo of him.
I would definitely like to see that too. He was definitely thinking he was pulling that off as well, as he did with a lot of his outfits.
And then I think he does say, which I think kind of explains the song a little bit. He says that you might be surprised, but I'm a halfway decent bloke and I always try to be nice. But when somebody comes down on me, I'll react by coming down twice as hard, which
is right.
It explains him in a very, very clear light.
Yeah, that's pretty much spot on for him. And this is the song where he says they couldn't tell Lou Reed from Doug Yule, and that was a reference to, I believe, David Bowie, the first time that he went to go see the Velvet Underground. And we might have talked about this before, but it's such a good story. And I'm glad that Mark put it in there because he's a big Velvet's head. David Bowie went to go see him, and so he went backstage or whatever to the green room and went to talk to them because he wanted to be like, you guys are so great. I'd love to work with you, and we should collaborate someday. And he's talking to him, and then and he thought he was talking to Lou Reed, but it turned out it was Doug Yule, the other member, the other new member of Velvet Underground, not even the original member, and so he didn't even get to talk to Lou Reed at all, which is great. I love it. They couldn't even tell Lou Reed from Doug Yule, and also that kind of goes with Mark's little bit of kicking the knees out of the David Bowie rock star.
Exactly, the mainstream guys that
Mhm.
which
They all looked like David Bowie.
they all looked like
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
Which I mean, I think he probably Bowie's got to be an angry thing because he does get this critical fame that. But he also does kind of get to do what he wants. He is as artistic as he wants to be, and makes the projects and the sounds that he wants, and gets to dress and appear the way he wants, and yet he's still popular and famous.
Yeah. And it's totally different than what Mark considers to be artwork, or even lyrically. I bet you he'd be like, that's all just kind of fluff, and
Sure.
that's all fluff compared to what I'm writing down, which is about real things, or even if it's in a different dimension or some, even like the Dr. Faustal or the Dr. Faustus situation story, it's in a realm that is believable, but it has such a griminess to it that is so human, that is much more, I don't know, relatable than something from an outer worldly intergalactic that David Bowie's going for. That's also kind of
Mark wants this world magic and darkness, not fantastical.
Yep. And he gets the audience for that, because David Bowie's getting a wide spectrum, and that's because the sounds too, because David Bowie's working with musicians that are completely different, and not better, but just completely different in their approach to making music. And The Fall, in this version of The Fall, they got a certain skill set that is really, you can hear on this.
Exactly. I mean, they get the Fall is the salt of the earth, the blue collar, the normies, if you will, that are creating something unique.
Yep. And they're also putting themselves in a box to say, how can we make the weirdest rock and roll within the constraints of not having a bunch of effects, not having the crazy production, right? I bet you John Leckie was like, I can make you guys sound like a spaceship landing, at the beginning of your song, and they were like, you got to be fucking joking me. If he asked that, he doesn't seem like the guy he knows his
I was going to say,
artist.
I imagine he knows who what to suggest and not, right?
Tactful. So we got that shoulder pad 1 pound. Let's go into a cover song. Let's go into a song that's a big hit. And let's go get our prescription filled from Dr. Faustus at the pharmacy.
Finally going to get my energy here.
Let's go see
Mr. Pharmacist.
Mr. Pharmacist, can you help me out today in your usual lovely way? Oh, Mr. Pharmacist, I insist. Can you give me some of the Pepsi, Mr. Pharmacist? Dear Pharmacist, won't you please give me some energy, Mr. Pharmacist?
Yeah, what do you like? You like the original, or you like this one?
I like this one. That's the original's the other half. The other half.
The other half. I'm guessing that Mark got this track. Maybe he got it as a single, but this was on the Nuggets compilation. So I know that Mark really liked the Seeds, and he liked that garage rock sound. And the band really nails the garage rock sound on this.
I was
But
gonna
it's
say,
not too different.
No, I just once the
No.
prescription hits in the middle there, and they start
Oh,
playing
yes.
fast. It's
Mhm.
it's great.
Oh man,
Um,
that jam section is my favorite too. It might be the best. I'm not going to go that far, but it's one of the best sounds on this album when they hit into that jam section with that guitar solo, which that does sound like a nice Craig Scanlon guitar solo. Man, that is just riffing. And when every time I hear that jam section interlude, which I think is better than the original, the rest of it sounds exactly this, pretty similar. But every time I hear that jam section, I say, "Ooh, this, my friend, is the direct part of the DNA genetic code for the band Parquet Courts." I know they just took maybe a little tip of the hat for that section and utilizing that in a song or even two in certain type of way, but it's definitely there. It's definitely there, and I really like that, as they should, because that's great. Couple layers of bass, drums, tightly locked in. When they want to do that tight
I was
kind
gonna
of
say
changeover, they're so good.
they're so good at it. It's just the droning is the style, but you're just like, man, you
Yeah,
could do something else. You a little bit
yeah,
of both, a little bit of both. It's okay.
yeah. It's probably so hard to do that when you have Mark, which is you got to leave space for him to start singing at any moment, right? So you might want to, you can't really always put in those little tight sections. It's
And
probably a
then
little bit more difficult.
and then you're just showboating too sometimes if you're playing too
You kind of
fast.
are. You kind of are. So we get a cover, and the Fall we know are great at doing the cover songs. But let's wrap this A side up with one of my favorites.
Gross Chapel British Grenadiers.
Yeah, let's go to the Gross Chapel. Let's go there for a while.
Results along.
Water is down. The dark, gross chapel. Step streets. Around now. Salesperson. Mobile. Water is down. Dark, gross chapel. This step streets around now.
I always
What's
thought
that?
at the end he was saying I'll cut you down, but apparently it's I'll put you down.
I love the gentle ending. It is nice. It's not
Mm.
it's a rarity for them to end a song that way.
And the side of the record that way, it's like a really well tied up in a nice little package. Almost like they blow the candle out. It's like I
Exactly.
get
Yeah.
that feeling. It's winding down, the slow simmer.
And then they usually either like cut it off way before they should, or they smash it home really quick at the
Mhm.
end and kind
Yep.
of just destroy
Yep.
that sense in you.
Yep. Or a fade out that's, they have to do with a technical fade out, which is not what they did on this one. They faded out with like an actual instrumentation, musicians fading it out their own way, which is really cool. And this song is, I could be living inside this song. So, man, it's so fun. The bass with the little key melody, the 3-note melody, really nice interplay between those two. The drumming is great,
Yeah.
very
Great.
unique.
Yeah. Very
Wow.
unique. Yeah, awesome drumming. Yeah. The whole time I'm just kind of like,
Like he's using the whole thing, but he's not overplaying it. guitars. Oh, this reminds me of fondly of the of Dragnet and Grotesque, where we talked about it a lot, I feel like, but where the guitars are interplaying with each other. And that's, that was Mark Riley and Craig, and that was completely different, but it makes me nostalgic as I can get for that type of sound, because you do hear in this song Craig and Bricks playing the guitar melody alongside one another, and they never really go where I want them to go, which is to get more off the cuff and not as structured as just playing the same riff. I want them to kind of go into that dragnet, grotesque, very abstract world, but that's just not where they're at this point, or what they're going for. But it reminds me of that in a sense, like this is the fall sound. Like even though it's different, this is the fall sound, and they did come from a direct connection to the previous version of the band, which Craig was a part of, but now he's just doing a different thing. Yeah, it all works so well together. It's what I want this whole album to be, this song. I'm glad it's 7 minutes long because it's not, the rest of it is not this.
You ready to flip it over? Want to check out what this album art.
Yeah, let's look at this album art before we flip it over. As we're flipping it over, Ben Sinister, 1986. I have always been drawn to this front cover with Mark, the three photos of Mark, and they're each a little bit more washed out, different contrast levels, because this is always what I picture in my head as being a little bit, I think out of all the album covers, this one to me looks the most like the album I want the album to sound, but also the most like the fall sounds. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's
stark.
no darkness. All yeah, black with white font. Yeah, you kind of expect what you're going to hear when you're looking at this.
His
What are they-
eyes are in the darkness, shadowed eyes. You can't see any eyes. There are little photos, aren't
Yeah, I
there?
was gonna say little band photos playing
Band
live. It looks
photos.
like.
Which is cool. I never noticed that before.
And then what
And
it says, Doomsday Off, maybe Doomsday Off is my guess.
Doomsday Payoff, which was
Doomsday Payoff. Oh, okay.
the title of the alternate release, which was the US release, was called the Doomsday Payoff, which I believe just included the singles, um and let's talk about that one real quick too, because that album cover is different, but basically you get ripped off because you basically just get the three, you don't even get the original, which is so bogus. You don't get the original Ben Sinister cover. You get it in the middle with the two singles on either side, the shoulder of the original album, but you don't get the original album art, and it kind of just looks like an advertisement for three albums. And this is actually the start of the CD era, and this is the first time that the fall album was pressed to CDs. So it kind of makes sense that this is kind of the shitty fucking thing material
Yeah, nobody
thing
knew.
that you get.
Yeah, the
Oh my God.
plastic
Yeah.
CD jewel case.
Yeah, it's kind of the start of that. And it's not against CDs or CD collection, but just the way that it's presented as this is a bargain. We can fit so much music on here. You get the regular album plus two singles and all of this extra music on
Yeah.
it's kind of a bullshit, kind of just
Triad Plus.
yeah, it says Triad Plus, like you're getting the triad of
And that's what you
albums
got to
and
do.
singles.
That's what you got to do to sell it to us
To sell it,
lousy
yeah.
Americans. I mean,
Yeah,
that whole
I
last
guess so.
the whole last song was about how the British Grenadiers beat us.
Yeah. Yep. I mean the tape looks cool. The tape looks fine, but that US CD is kind of a piece of trash. There is a little kind of, I don't know if it's a reference to kind of kind of film. Do you see up in the
Yeah, the
corner? It
top
looks
little
like a
corner.
film.
Yeah, those look like the film holes.
And you don't see that on the original version. And I'm really glad that they
No, you do.
chose.
It's on the
It
original.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not on the one I'm looking. Oh, yes, you're right. It is. I like that. Yeah, I like that. Um, but I am glad that they chose the actual name of this album to be Ben Sinister, based on the Naboka um novel, which Brick says that she basically named this album because she read a bunch of his novels in college, but which is fine. I mean, I believe that, but I'm also kind of like the Mark is so prone to pulling things, so I kind of, and also that book is right up Mark's alley, so I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but I'm glad that they went with Ben Sinister instead of Doomsday Payoff for the actual album, because Doomsday Payoff is, I don't really, it says Domesday Payoff. Huh.
Domesday.
Domesday. What is it? I thought it was Doomsday. Okay, Domesday Payoff, even worse. I don't know the
Is
reference,
that
so
just a British thing we don't know about?
yeah, maybe it is, but come on, doesn't Ben Sinister sound cool though? Even if you don't know the book, like it just sounds cool. It fits the image. It looks like Mark is bending some sinister thought in his brain on the cover. And let's flip it over and look at the band. Well, a portion of the band. We get the 4 photos of Steve, Craig, Bricks, and Simon and Funky Sai, I believe. And did you notice that Paul Hanley is listed, but did you notice that they refer to Funky Simon as John Wollstonecroft, and they don't even spell his name right on the back
Not
of this.
even, yeah.
Not even close. And also John is in quotation marks, which is fun. Yeah. Oh, it does say that Craig Scanlon played acoustic guitar. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all straightforward. And there is a cool inlay. Should we pull out the inlay that's inside the album? And what
Yeah,
do we see here, Steve?
you got some live photos, got some paper scraps, you got some music scales.
DR officers, Anna, Violet. Yeah, some lyrics with the music, and a sketch of, I think that could be Dr. Faustus,
Dr. Faustus, yeah,
which
it
also
is.
looks like Mark.
I saw some photos from the book, which look similar to that. So
Okay.
that must be where that comes from.
Dr. Faustus, and then someone picking up a little child, which I don't know who that is.
That's me. I was born in
That was you.
1986. Yeah, that's me.
That was you. Okay.
Me and my mom.
Okay, confirmed. Well, I'm going to add it to annotated folder. And we flip it over, and we got the track list, and we got a picture of the Joker action figure, which
But no, not the. It's probably the Riddler, right?
it's labeled as the Riddler track. That looks like the Joker. Remember, the Riddler has question marks all over, and he also has a little bowler's cap. And this is the Joker, because I'm pretty sure I had a Joker action figure that looked just like this guy.
Mark doesn't worry about
not
that.
in 1986, but probably in 1991. So I got a vintaged Joker. And then you get the swirling fall logo with
Done it twice. Who's that? Is that
yeah.
Hanley on the base with one little swirly fall logo and then a double?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of pictures of Steve Hanley in the inlay, which is good for him. He kind of gets the shaft sometimes on some of the photos, so I think it's cool. And then there's a cool photo, actually a great photo of Mark just in front of a PA at a live show. It looks like. and some lyrics drawn out. So I like that.
Is
I like
that
that.
what is that Steve Hamley's kid? Maybe when were they?
Oh
born?
yeah,
Right
oh
around
yeah,
this
yeah,
time?
yeah. I think you're right because he did take his on the last album, I believe, took the little paternity leave break so that
He got his
he could
month off.
stay
He
home.
got his month off.
He got his couple 2 weeks 2 weeks pay, and then they needed him back. Of course, because I mean that is the sound. That's the fall sound. So that's cool. I like that album cover. Let's flip it over.